I see me. I have arrived. It says I have an excellent connection today. Suzanne says, hello from Canada. Hi, Suzanne. You're not the only Canadian we have. Welcome. Ian says, greetings and welcome. You are number one, Ian.
Of course I am.
Carla says, hi, Siofra and Ian. How was your week? It's absolutely beautiful here today. Well, I'm glad it's really nice there. Our week was filled with some interesting things, having to talk to the doctor about results, etc., setting up a procedure for myself for next week. So, bleh, but better to do now than later. So, some busy stuff. Seems like we were very busy, and Ian was working on the building and his speaker cabinets and putting soffits up on the house. So we've been like,
all kinds of fun.
Yeah, in do-it-yourself mode, I guess we should say. Erin says hello. Hi, Erin. So it's been pretty good. Just running around doing our thing. And the weather is pretty nice here today, so certainly it's plenty warm out. It's nice, not too windy either. So how was your week? Oh, and the bunny's doing way better. I bought him some toys yesterday. I went to the baby section because I was reading online about how you could find things for your bunny to do, and that baby toys were safe if it was safe for a baby to put in their mouth, it was safe for a bunny. And so I got him a few things. One of the things I got him was a spinner, um, and he doesn't like that, at least not yet. It worries him. I've spun it a few times, and it makes him run away. He's just like, I don't know, he thinks it might attack him maybe. So, but he really likes the cups. I got some cups, and he takes them apart, and then we put them back together, and then so he can take them apart again. So Carlos says, must be the season, lady. I have a date with a surgeon this Tuesday. Let's hope he doesn't think I'm dying. Oh, we don't want that. Mine will be an in-office procedure this time. Thank goodness. I don't like it when they put me under with the fentanyl. It interferes with my whole body systems. They just go nuts, and it takes months to get them back to normal. Carlos says, Spinner and Bunny. Yes. Tina says, hello. Hi, Tina. Welcome. So apparently what I did for Lammas this year is I baked 2 loaves of blueberry bread. We're still eating them. We still have a little bit left. It's been nice, actually, to get into some baking. Teresa says howdy. Hi, Teresa. We have Suzanne from Canada. I'm not sure what province she's from, but she put up a Canadian flag. So maybe Suzanne can tell us what province you're in. Teresa's in Manitoba. Teresa says, I just had ice cream, maple walnut. Oh, good for you. Sounds nice. Dan says Manitoba. So you're both in Manitoba. All right. I know they're very large provinces since I've lived there, but how cool is that? You're in the same time zone. Carla says, I have a hernia they're wanting me to repair and a fistula. I have no clear understanding on that, but we'll see. Did my biannual MRI on Friday, so we'll see if all is stable. It should be. Well, good. And Teresa says, Suzanne, whereabouts? Yeah, I have a polyp. They want to take out a polyp. Like, blah. But on the plus side, she said I was a very healthy 75-year-old. So it was nice to hear, since I know I'm healthy. So, yeah, yay. Things are working mostly. funny when you age and bodies do strange things. You're not sure what they mean, and finding out what they mean helps. I mean, if you don't know what's going on, it's a stress-inducing kind of situation. So I like to know what's happening. Teresa says, we're trying to keep you healthy. Well, thank you, but I can do a pretty good job of that myself. Always appreciate the extra energy, but I think my genes have something to do with it. I lucked out in that department. Beth says, hi, everyone. Hi, Beth. Welcome. I brought in my crystal book today, in case anyone has any crystal questions. Because today I'm wearing aquamarine, tourmaline, kyanite, emerald, green aventurine, amazonite, and chalcedony. Carl says, happened upon a street arts and crafts fair and found a magical painting, Woodland Witch, and picked up my first meditation bench today. I'm listening while typing. It's good, removing the polyp, yes. Carla says, I have crystal questions. Do any of you keep what is considered high vibrational crystals all together? I do, yes. All my crystals like to hang out together. So, they don't mind each other's company. Beth says, beautiful, thank you. Dina says, I painted my fingernails a goldy pink color. That's all I felt like doing. Yeah, well, you know, whatever works. I've been planning on baking for a while, for like 2 weeks. It finally happened one morning. And I just got up and I thought, yep, I'm going to do it now before I think about it too hard. So, yeah, it's a good thing. I have my trusty reference guide for crystal question. I did not. I thought about it, but I took one before I came in. Carla says, I do too. I've never found a crystal that didn't like another. Yeah, I mean, some people seem to, but I haven't. I've seen displays that people put together that don't resonate at all and don't work well. And, you know, make my hair stand up on end and make me fidgety.
Okay, I need to go get my cups.
All right. But I've never found a problem with my crystals. They like to hang out in baskets and in piles, and sometimes they want to move around, and, you know. Ian's going to go get an antihistamine. I try to remember everything. Shay says, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Shay. Yeah. Rocks. They're our friends. Carla says, same. So many baskets. Gabrielle says, hey. Hi, Gabrielle. So I've just been working this week, too, on putting up closed captions on all of my videos on our channel. And we're only, I think we only need 59 people at this point to get to 16,000, which is amazing to us. I just keep watching the number going up, and it's like, wow, this is so cool. So that's been actually a lot of the stuff I've done this week is working on that so that more people have access to the information that I've already put out there. It says, rocks and crystals are my weakness. I don't know if it's a weakness. I wouldn't call it that. I would call it an attraction, a need, maybe. Gabrielle says, I tried to email the video with the fairy, but the file is too big. I might have to just upload it on YouTube and email it. Oh, I'm sorry. It doesn't like your file, huh? Wonder if you can, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not that much of a computer geek. I do really well on the computer, but you might be able to compress it, perhaps, to make it smaller so that it can go on an email. Or if you put it on YouTube, you can do it as a private thing, maybe. Send it to me as a link. I don't know. Whatever you decide, I've been looking for it, so thank you for letting me know. He says, that's cool, Siofra. Congrats. John Doe says, or John Doe says, thank you. You're welcome. I'm not sure why you're welcome, but you're welcome. Carla says, I invited a couple of people to the Crystal Web. They're even more on the down low than I am, so I'm crossing fingers. Gabrielle says, I've always had issues emailing videos. She tried to email the video she talked about last week, and it wouldn't let her do it because it said it was too big. So I was wondering if maybe there was a way to compress it to email it. Maybe I'll make it a private link. Yeah, maybe so. That says, I can't pass a crystal shop without something. Yes, I'm drawn to them. Shay says that Gabrielle, there's a free service called iTransfer. Cool. I haven't heard of that. There's so many things out there. John Dew says, for the information that you share. Oh, well, you're very welcome. And I'm glad when it's helpful information. Do you have any questions? This is a live show, so you can ask anything you want. Jay says, sorry, wet transfer, not I transfer. We transfer, not wet transfer. Sorry. I added an extra T in there. Okay, we transfer. Yeah, we've been at this for like 5 years now. Just slowly adding more stuff. Carla's laughing. It's like that's what my brain says even now when I look at it. It wants to see that. It's a really weird thing in my brain. But hey. So yeah, it'll be interesting, and I'm starting to translate some of the videos into potential chapters for books. So I'm slowly working on that as well. It's been kind of fun and exciting to reread some of the things I've said and find out some of the things I say fairly often. I have some very specific examples I use for certain prompts and things like that, which is always kind of interesting to discover. But yep, it's been interesting. And I finally found a good program for transcribing my videos, so I don't have to spend all my time listening to it and trying to type it out, which kind of left me not doing it because that's like too much energy. Carla is also laughing, or Carla is still laughing. Carla says, I saw something earlier about Smurl haunting and I read it as Smurf. I was wondering what the. Yeah, and sometimes you see signs on the road and it in your head it looks like something completely different than what it is, and you look back and now the words have changed or the letters have changed or you see them better, a completely different meaning. You're like, wow. We actually were under a tsunami alert for a while here from the earthquake that happened earlier this week, the one that happened off of the coast of Russia. So that was kind of interesting. Nothing actually came of it here, but parts in, I think Crescent City got some damage, which is south of us. And of course, there were other places that got some of the wave action and stuff like that. So.
Well, Crescent City is kind of close. It's not too far away. I mean, it's
Well,
in
no,
California,
but it's more
not too
stuck out
far.
in the ocean than we are. Because where we are, we've got the bay that protects us from things. But Charleston, which is right on the ocean, didn't have any either. They didn't have any damage this time like they did in the last one, where they had the better, tying up and stuff like that, and the dock was fine, so that was good. Yeah. Gabrielle puts up a Smurf haunting and then pictures of maybe sort of blue Smurfs,
ghosts, anyway.
blue ghosts that kind of look Smurfish. Erin says, I'm dyslexic, and that happens a lot to me. Yeah, I think I am somewhat dyslexic. I'm certainly, like, when it comes to right side, left side, I always have to think about it. As a massage therapist, it's like I have to put my mind in the position of the person I'm talking to and then check in with myself to see if it's their right side or their left side because I'm not sure just from looking. Just entertaining. So, Gabrielle, Carla says, Gabrielle, haha. Teresa says, magical question. Is it possible to learn witchcraft to the level of the initiate via spirits and gods only? Pros and cons. I do believe so, yes, it is. Pros would be you wouldn't have anybody trying to impart their specific brand of thinking on it. Cons would be if you fell off a, a cliff of your own imagining, there'd be no one to pull you back. It'd be much easier to fall prey to your own imagination and think that everything you get is accurate and right. So discernment can be a difficulty when you're doing things just by yourself without any kind of a human intervention or personal, some kind of a, I don't know, guidelines or something like that. Magical psychosis is a real thing, and any number of people fall prey to it. So, but if you're sensible and you question what you get and don't just believe automatically everything that comes through, then you can probably do pretty well. And I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I know that there's been argument in some of the witchcraft community that you can't be a Wiccan without being initiated by another Wiccan. And I'm like, somebody became a Wiccan first before there were any Wiccans to initiate others. So it's clearly true that the powers that be, the deities, the gods and goddesses or whatever, can do the initiation on their own. They don't need a human agency with which to do that. It's just easier and more straightforward, I guess, in that sense, but not impossible. And like I said, obviously it must have happened at some point in the past before there were, human agencies to be intermediaries between them and us, kind of thing. Carla says, I think it's a sequel to The Conjuring. Murph Haunting. Oh. Erin says, I have to shake a hand to tell direction.
Well, for if people wants to know how the modern Wiccan stuff got going, it's all there. You can look at the history of what happened with Gardner and that, and how he was involved with it, and the startup of modern day witchcraft and stuff. So I mean, in that particular example, you can find out exactly how it developed and where it came from, and a lot of it came from ancient medieval sources on ceremonial magic and things like that, and a little bit came from some passed down stuff from some hereditary witches who hadn't lost like all of their knowledge. But
boy, that's a low plane. We're getting lower, it seems. I heard one last night, and I wondered if it was going to hit our house as I was going to sleep. So Suzanne says, question, do you have a book for learners on starting out creating spells? Well, I'm starting to create some chapters and things like that on the various subjects that I've done. But in my videos, if you go to the main page and look under playlists, I have a beginner section, also has spellcraft and so forth. And so you can look through the videos I already have up there and see if something is suitable for what you're looking for. Because spell work, I mean, I've done it, and it's part of the practice in various times of my life and so forth, but it's not something I've specifically focused on. I was focused more on the kinds of spells I did were to try and help myself to evolve into a version of me I wanted to have, kind of thing. But yeah, there's some stuff on our channel, and I'm in the process, just the beginning process of trying to put together a series of books. And one of them will be on beginning witchcraft and basics and that kind of thing as well. So I'm sure there'll be something like that. Gabrielle says, I was initiated by a diva that physically came out my bedroom wall and booped me on the forehead. I called the police on it. It started my Kundalini awakening. What do the police think? Carla says, I get weirded out when I think about initiations into Wicca only because religion as a whole is very triggering. Well, yeah, and I, was offered the initiation into one of the local Wiccan groups, and I decided to not do it, and then got a very intensely negative reaction from the high priestess. I mean, when I told her I wanted to think about it and make sure I was doing it for the right reasons, she was like, "No, don't think about it. Just do it, and then you'll understand it." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, well,
And that certainly seemed like a red flag to me. And then what happened later, I'm really glad I didn't.
yeah, there were a lot of further issues down the road. So
Yeah, she was the one that thought we were some black magic group running around trying to destroy the world or something, and she had to protect us,
I'm
protect
sure
others from us. And
part of that was
yeah,
what's her name's influence.
well, it doesn't matter though, because
Well, I
as
agree.
the high priestess, she should have known better
I
and should have
agree.
been paying more attention. But yeah, Wicca is a religion, not just a path. And I too have things about religion. It's like I want the freedom to decide for myself what I'm going to do and so forth. And I might follow along with some of their basic tenets because I think they're a good thought experiment and a good idea to think about and so forth. But I'm not restricted um, in my own path. So yeah, it's an interesting process. Suzanne says, "Cool, many thanks. You're welcome." Carla says, "It's more comforting to be free from anything like that." And a huge red flag. Yeah, definitely a huge red flag. There were a number of them. Um, and then the emotional manipulation that happened before that I started to notice was another one. So
Yeah, that's the difficulty. You can think about the initiation, and that's one thing. But one of the things you're doing if you're just starting out is you're immediately tying yourself to a whole group of people that you need to make sure you want to be tied to before you do it. It's something to, it can be beneficial, but it needs to be considered carefully and make sure you know what if you're pledging allegiance to something or taking oath about something, find out all you can. And generally, you can't just ask what the oath is. You'll be asked what the oath is. You won't generally be allowed to know what it is ahead of time, but in some cases you can. So it might be worth asking anyway. I might be willing to tell you, but good to know ahead of time.
yeah. Carla says, "I do want to get together with you guys 100% again, 100%. What you just said." I mean, that's the thing. It's like, free will is a huge thing for me. It's very important. I value it greatly, having been raised in an environment where I wasn't allowed to have any. And so, it's definitely one of my potential triggers when somebody does or says something that feels like it's trying to impose their will on mine without my permission. So, knowing who you are is important, I think. I did a paranormal investigation in a house in Coquille, I think it was, where the woman there called the police a number of times because she was having poltergeist phenomenon. The police came over and wrote reports about what they saw. With it looked like somebody had wrecked the place. It's just, but they had no clue what to do. So that was kind of interesting. I think she was actually the poltergeist. She was an old woman and she was very angry. And when we were there, when we were doing the investigation, she was yelling, telling me about the spirit that was making her really mad. And as she yelled and got angrier, then things started flying off the shelves in the kitchen behind us.
Yeah, it sounds like that's
So it seemed pretty clear to
yeah.
me that she was actually the source of most of that activity.
Too bad, if somebody like that could harness all that for good and not destroying their own environment.
Yep. And Carla says it feels good for understanding. Thank you. Donna says, "Hi everyone. I hope everyone is all right. Can't type, about to wash dishes before I get my hands wet. Where did Barton get his spirits from in his second book? He contacted them directly himself."
Yeah, there's some. It's an interesting question for a couple of different reasons. Somebody years and years ago noticed that the Mercury spirit beings, which Barton actually mentions line up with the Shemhamphorash spirits, and he explains all that. But somebody noticed that in the past, but he didn't get them from a place like that. If you go through his first book and you get that far, you end up going out into the astral zone yourself, and to the point, and you basically start meeting the spirits of the zone girdling the earth, and then gets the information. You can get it all yourself right from the beings of the zone girdling the earth. So Barden put it together as a compendium, but that's basically where he got the spirit names from, by going and visiting the different spheres, starting with the zone girdling the earth, and getting the names of the, all the different ones and different levels and stuff, and not. He certainly doesn't mention all of the ones that are out there, and he specifically doesn't mention the ones that are commonly known so much, like the spirit of Venus, Hajiel, and that. He says that information is out there, and you can get that. So basically, he got them from, it's kind of the same method, the old way that Solomon was supposed to have. He got one spirit to come, and then ordered this one to bring him another spirit, and continue on until he got, bring him the fastest spirits or whatever he wanted. Barton kind of went the same way, and he visited them all and got their seals, and he considered that he needed to get permission from them all to use their seals in a book and such. So that's how he went out and did that. It doesn't mean most of them don't line up with any of the ones people know, except the Mercury spirits, because those were pretty well known.
So Suzanne says, I haven't connected myself with any specific group. I prefer solo. I also would rather make my own decisions. Yeah, I'm 100% with that. Gabrielle says, my brother was trying to exert his will over me because I'm not a Christian. He was shouting at me and trying to scare me with hell. Then that evening, I had an entity that was attached to him attack me. It wasn't much of a psychic attack, but I went no contact with my brother last week. He really has an issue with the divine feminine and try to dominate me whenever he can. Yeah, that's unfortunate. People do stuff like that. It's like if they're afraid of something, they try to squash it and keep it under control.
Well, and a lot of times they're not even aware that they're doing so. In some cases, I mean, people fight against their own best interest subconsciously a lot of times.
This is true. Carla says, I'm not sure what this is called, but when things show up, like what I've shown you with the auctions, the hubs go to, what's that called? They're sports auctions. No reason in the world for those types of things to be there. Is that sympathetic magic? Synchronicity, I think, and the universe allowing things to slip through that you might want. Putting it in a place where you can find it. So, yeah, not really sympathetic magic in the sense unless you're specifically looking for them and then they show up. It's kind of like when I need something for a magical operation and I go to Goodwill and I walk in and they have 20 of the thing I'm looking for, then I know the universe knew what was up. And yeah, so that's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it can be a kind of a manifestation of your personal power too, as you grow and evolve. The universe will tend to, the more in harmony you are with the universe, the more you'll tend to have things come to you.
Right, that's kind of what I was trying to say, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is this? The same thing.
Yeah. Gabrielle says, I just blocked him because I don't want to be provoked to do something baneful. He has no clue who he's messing with. So I went no contact so he doesn't blow a fuse trying to get into my energy field. That's probably a good idea.
Probably the best idea.
And Teresa says, another magical question. I was toying with the idea of casting a circle and calling in only one element rather than 4. I was thinking of working with water in the full moon. What do you think? Well, that's not a circle. That's more a spot.
Well, yeah, you could use this, make a circle of light or whatever, but you can certainly just work with one element.
Yeah, you don't have to work with all 4 elements just because you call them in to make a circle.
But if you make a circle out of just one, what are you making the circle out of? I mean, when I do it, I'm focusing divine light, and I'm focusing it on the mental plane with the image, focusing on the astral plane with the feeling, and I'm focusing on the physical plane by physically making the circle.
That's true. There's a difference between drawing the circle and casting a circle using the elements, because the elements can come later. You can have a
Yeah.
circle without the elements.
Yes, and then do that if you want to just use one element. If you make a circle out of that element, which you could do, it won't necessarily protect you against, if you made a like a water circle, it wouldn't necessarily protect you against the air element or something like that.
Right,
It
but if
could,
you
would
make it out of
protect you
light,
against other water elementals or something.
right.
Yeah,
If you make the circle out of the
the
divine
divine
light,
yeah.
then the circle is there, and calling in the elements is just for an extra added protection, not necessarily a
Yeah,
requirement.
with the little I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but don't overdo it on one element. You don't get yourself unbalanced by focusing too much on one element. That's all.
Well, I'm
But you
thinking,
could certainly also alternate. You
yeah,
could do water one day and fire the next, and then earth and then air or something like that too,
when
which is
when I did
fine.
a drawing down the moon ceremony, which would be working with the water and with the moon, I also had already done the circle and the elements to be there to to like monitor things and to keep the circle safe and keep the practitioners safe. So calling in all four directions or for all four elements does not mean that you can't work with a single element inside of it.
That's true too. Yes.
So it doesn't really stop you from doing just focusing on the water and the full moon for a lunar ritual. So yeah, I really don't see an issue or why you would have to do it just with water. The water and the moon's not going to care.
Maybe just to be faster or something, but
Yeah.
and also you could also draw the circle this way. If you use incense and draw the circle, you can consider that you're using air and fire, and then you go around again and draw it with water and salt. And so that way you could get all four elements in with like physical retracing of the circle. I'd still make the circle, three times, but that way you could get the four elements combined into two, which is a typical witchcraft and Wiccan thing is to use salt and water on one hand and then the incense for air and fire on the other and get all four elements in that way.
Yeah.
Kind of an abbreviated method that's just as effective. If you want to just work with a one element something, earth can not as well, it can kind of substitute for all the other elements. So like if you do a banishing, you could do the whole banishing all the pentagrams as the earth banishing pentagram if you wanted. That's okay. It's more, of course, it's always more effective if you use the specific elements. But you can use the earth aspect as a generalized one if you need to or desire to.
And so Gabrielle says, because I have a fully risen Kundalini and I'm not in complete control of my energy, so I thought it would be safe for him energetically if I just cut cords. Yeah, sounds like a good idea for you and for him. Carla says, that resonated. I'm still flabbergasted by it, but so very grateful. Thank you, Siofra and Ian. You're welcome. And Carla says, sheesh, I asked the rain to wash out the corruption and the air to blow it away, and we got floods and tornadoes. 'Tis balanced now. Teresa says, I thought of just water in order to have it totally intensely water, but I like this discussion.
You can absolutely do that, and there's no reason not to, just keep in mind the differences in the circle and what have you, but yeah, you can do that if you just want to concentrate on just one thing.
Well, like I said, you can be in the circle and just concentrate on just one thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't see any
either way, yeah.
issues one way or the other.
It's all fine.
Yeah. You just don't want to overbalance
Yeah,
all the time.
If your focus was just protection, then that would be another thing. You could make the circle different and just focus just on that, It kind of depends what you're using the circle for. As a container, as a container of energy, or you can use it as a force field, a sphere to keep everything out that you don't want.
Right, or a combination.
Yeah.
I sort of see the circle as like the air. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know if it's not elementary, but
No,
air.
it's like you're going from one atmosphere to another. the doorway in between, your pressure door, whatever. You're
Sure.
creating a space where you and the spirit world can connect. And so it makes it compatible with you and compatible with them
And
at
see,
the
now
same time.
and that's another aspect. If you're making it compatible and you bring in the compatibility, you can also be balancing your elements, the elements within you at the same time, which also leads to your own advancement along the spiritual path.
Airlock.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to
airlock.
think of, an
That's
airlock.
okay.
Sorry, guys. I was up early this morning.
That's all right. It just wasn't entering my brain what word you were looking for.
Oh, no, our telepathy wasn't working.
All those things are good ways to consider it. So it's these things are flexible mostly. They're not like a lot of these religions. It's got to be this one way. A lot of these things, if you get the understanding of it, you can use them in all sorts of ways.
So apparently Teresa also thought of airlock because she just wrote
Yeah.
it in. Airlock. I listened to one of your videos
Yeah.
yesterday in which you said that. Yeah. Synchronicity. Yeah. Well, see, you started thinking about it, and then it popped into my head finally. So thank you. Like, boy, I tell you, sometimes the brain is a funny thing.
And most of the time, I don't have to. I do many meditations and stuff, and most of the time, I don't have to do a circle. Occasionally, I'll get enough like negative stuff floating through the atmosphere or something from outside. I'll need to do one, but in most cases, I don't. I very seldom do one formally unless I want to do a banishing, and usually I'm banishing myself personally and banishing stuff out of me and the nasty energies out of me and stuff. But
The banishing.
yeah, once you get yourself up to a certain point, you don't need to do it very often. It's still there for me as a tool, but I'd use it for example if I was going to do an evocation, but unless I'm getting really formal, I don't mostly do a circle much anymore.
I still do the thing around our house.
Yeah.
On
Well,
occasion.
yeah, keep that protection up.
Yep.
My personal circle, I only do maybe a couple times a month usually, just when I feel like I need to. Stuff starts coming in on me and I can't keep it out.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Being aware of your internal environment, your internal climate, what's going on in your mind, your spirit, your body, and so forth, and being able to take steps to change it so that it works better for you. But Teresa says, especially here, our brains are funny things. Yes, they are very funny things. And of course, consciousness is not just in our brain. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to leave our body and remember anything. I thought somebody was talking about that some scientists had concluded that consciousness wasn't actually in the body, it was external. And I'm like, well, obviously, otherwise astral projection wouldn't work at all. You wouldn't be able to project your consciousness somewhere else. Teresa says maybe I should fill a kiddie pool and cast a circle into the full moon from it and do some kind of working in the water.
Well,
Sounds like
why
a
not?
cool idea.
Well,
And Carl,
would be a perfect time for it.
Carl says that's how I use it too. Ian, personally, I try and release whatever energy I'm not vibing with from myself. Carla says, ooh, Teresa. She likes the idea. Doing it inside the water. I have a past life memory of in the Northwest in a tribal situation, like up in Washington somewhere, where I had we had a special pool of very still water that I would go to when the moon was full, and the moonlight would shine in the water, and I would use it as a scrying pool, which is just a really cool memory. And I've done that before. And you can do that, like, we have one of our cauldrons is a water cauldron. It's made out of brass. And you can do that. You can have some kind of a container or whatever and take it outside and collect the moonlight in it to use it for scrying or for anything else that you want to have lunar energy for. It's always interesting to work with that kind of stuff. I had one house I lived in where the bathroom was in the right place for the full moon to come in through the window. And so I would do a lot of moon baths when I wasn't going up into the woods. I would be in the bathtub. So there's, lots of little things that you can do that are just fun and interesting and entertaining and powerful, and they sort of combine with each other. Um, they have an effect on you that you don't always notice right away. The
Very true.
cumulative kind of an effect. Sophia says hello. Hi, Sophia. Welcome. Every year is a little bit different. Gabrielle says, whenever I do the dishes, the spirit that lives under the kitchen sink grabs my toes. Should we give him a cup of water or a plant to live in? Why do spirits like water fixtures? Well, that's one of the reasons why when you do a house sealing, when you're sealing up a house from intrusions of spirits, you seal up the water inlets and outlets so that they don't have a way of getting in. I think because it's the way that it flows in. It's like an entrance into your house. It comes from the outside where they are, and they can follow it and come straight inside, going through the water. Make it pretty simple. There was one story I read once where they were talking about how spirits couldn't cross a river or a lake or whatever, and I'm like, that's stupid. I don't know who came up with that idea, but that's not true. That they can't cross water. But, and people come up with all kinds of ideas. Gabriel says, I also saw a family of little blue spirits on top of a pile of soap scum. I felt bad for them. So I'm like, maybe I'll give them a plant. Well, you could give them a plant. A watery plant, maybe, if the water is what they like. Teresa says, and water is magnetic. Yes, it is. Suzanne says, wow, thanks. Never thought of the water coming into the house. Well, yeah. Yeah, I have one of the protection spell things that I got from Starhawk that I have up on our site, and it's a way of ghost proofing your house. That's what I call it, ghost proofing spell. But it's a way of cleansing the energy out of your house and then sealing it up against things coming in without permission, express invitation kind of thing. And corners, doorways, windows, water inlets and outlets, and mirrors are the things that we seal when we do that. Because those are all potential entrances into your space. And the more sensitive you are, the more important it is to have some kind of control over that psychic environment or spiritual energetic environment that you have. Because especially when you're going through an active phase and you're trying to figure stuff out, the more sensitive phases that I've gone through, it can become problematic. It's very distracting and sometimes very confusing and so forth. And learning ways to set your spiritual boundaries as well as your emotional and physical boundaries are important. And you are the decider. You decide whether something can come in and talk to you or not if you're interested in having a conversation, so you're not always on call. I got tired of being on call all the time, so I started taking steps. Cairo says, I have a blue spirit flying around that the investigator saw it too. Cool. He says, I haven't gotten around to closing portals, but when I was talking about it, all these little lights in my room lit up like, oh crap, she's thinking about closing the fairy door. Suzanne says, well, house and property are sealed. Mirrors are locked. Next, I'll be locking down the water. Good. Good to know. And I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, I was thinking about how sometimes nature spirits get stuck under beds and in corners. And I was like, I'm not sure exactly how or why that happens. They come into my house without a problem. So it's not like they come in my house and then they get stuck and they can't leave. I was trying to figure out why they can come in and out without a problem here, and yet I've done investigations where a nature spirit's gotten stuck under a child's bed and doesn't know how to get out, and I've had to, try and show them the way out, find the way outside so they can escape, and they get upset. So I'm not sure if it's the type of spirit or the intelligence of the spirit or the way I have my room set up, energetically speaking. I don't know. Gabrielle says, yes, I'm cleaning up my place so I can walk around and see how they get in. Carla says, I have selenite on all windowsills, a rosemary bush and sweetgrass out front, a charmed doormat, cat mint and lavender out back, and a charmed doormat out back too, huh? Yeah. Gabrielle says, oh my God, they love being under the bed. Carla says, a safe passage for the Fae, though. Yeah. Teresa says, why is the triangle shaped used to conjure spirits?
Oh, you want me to answer that?
Why not?
Well, because of its symbolism. So when you're talking anything like that, you're talking the importance of the symbolism. In that case, the symbolism is 3, and that corresponds to, there's several different aspects. Basically, it corresponds to Saturn and materialization, materializing down. But the symbol of the 3 represents the dot at the top, the 2 powers, the plus and minus coming down from the source, the negative and positive, and ending at a line that connects the 2 ends. So you've got the positive and the negative, and they're joining in manifestation to create the third, the 3, which is the Saturn. So you have the symbolism of the male and female giving birth also in there. So you're giving manifestation to whatever you want to put in the triangle, whatever spirit you're trying to get in there. So that's particularly used if you want to manifest a spirit down for an evocation. Spirit doesn't need to be in a symbol, only if you want to pull them down into your environment, and that would be why you'd use a triangle for that. If you go visit the spirit through mental travel or something like that, you don't need to bother with that kind of symbolism or whatever. So
yeah, and generally speaking, when you're doing an evocation like that, the triangle is outside of the circle.
Yes, it's always based around the number 3, and generally it is outside the circle. So the circle's around so that whatever you're bringing down, you're protected, even if it's a positive spirit. Still use the protection.
And I think of that triangle shape as like, creating a door, a pathway from whatever their particular kingdom is, energetic kingdom. And it kind of sets up, you're building up the energy in that triangle so that there's like, it has its own kind of energetic walls or what have you, which allows it to come in and have its own atmosphere and whatnot, and potentially manifest more and keep the energy together instead of just sort of flopping around all over.
If you're going with that, it needs to have the atmosphere of the spirit, whatever it lives in, needs to be in the triangle. So if you're talking a Venusian spirit, you need to be able to fill the triangle with emerald green light, for example. And the Venus spirits are watery. So you prepare the environment for the spirit. You can use a little bit of the spirit's incense, which is, Barden gives both a complex and a simple version for Venus. For the simple version, he recommends just a little bit of cinnamon, not very much. You don't want to get your eyes and things irritated. He says just the slightest, just a touch, just the slightest odor of it is needed, not giant clouds that some of the people who do evocations try to do and try and see the spirit in the clouds of smoke and stuff. So yeah.
So Suzanne says, I'm not worried about spirits in general. I have a few gentle ones that hang around, but I'm sealed from anyone sending me unkind mojo. Always a good idea. Teresa says there are ancient triangular plates they used to use.
Yeah.
So Carla says, so alchemy, I associate triangle, circle, and square as alchemy.
Well,
not really.
They're yeah. They are used in alchemy, but not necessarily meaning the same things. But square is about the same because square is an earth, and square, or actually a cube, is a better symbol of earth. So, the circle with a line through it is used to indicate salt, which is more an earthy aspect. Triangle is generally used also for fire, for alchemy, and there's the symbol of the elements that I use. I use the alchemical signals. So fire is an upward triangle, air is an upward triangle with a line through it, earth is a downward triangle with a line through it, and water is a downward triangle.
Right, and they represent, I figured out why they drew them that way. Because fire rises up like this, water drops down like this, earth
Air
is
also has
underneath like so, and air separates from earth and rises up like that. So they have like the
Yeah.
horizon,
Yeah.
like the plane of earth or whatever in between.
Yeah, air and fire have an upward tending direction, and earth and water have a downward weighty tending direction. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's all, the more you understand about the symbols, including the pentagram, the more you understand about them and what they mean and how they work, the more effective they're going to be for you trying to use them. So if you
yeah,
want to use a symbol, get the best understanding of it you can, because that'll help. It helps your authority, and any spirits you're dealing with will be able to tell. They'll be able to sense your knowledge about things, how knowledgeable you are,
yeah.
and judge whether.
I just actually literally this morning transcribed the one on our channel about the pentagram and uploaded the closed captions. Smells like smoke coming in suddenly. Gabrielle says, while I'm cleaning, I'll see spirits fly out my closet and cabinets, like I'm disturbing their peace. I'm like, oh, excuse me, your royal highnesses, I'm just paying the rent here. There's supposed to be no burning at all in the area right now because of the fire danger. Oh, is she home? Okay.
Not so much.
All right. Yeah, so, you do what. I mean, there's like, yeah, the more you learn about the symbols, the better.
Yeah, and some symbols are the more they have a universal harmony, a universal meaning. So the more they harmonize with the 10 basic aspects. Um, there are some types of symbols that don't have a universal relationship because they can give to you that have been empowered by a spirit being and such. So you can have symbols, you might have symbols that don't have any relation to the universal aspects if they've been charged up by some other means. But most of the effective ones are all the aspects of universal symbols, so they correspond to the numbers between 1 and 10. And then if the numbers go up like 20, 30, and 40, you can combine the two. So the number of a letter is 40, it has a basic resonance of 4. And 10 would add an extra 10, so that would be like a middle plane. So you can look at the additional numbers, middle, astral, and physical plane, depending on how many. Sorry, I'm getting too far off onto a Kabbalistic subject.
That's okay. Teresa
Anyway.
says there are some fire evacuations near Nanaimo and other parts of BC. So much smoke everywhere. Well, I think we're too far south for that. So Carlos says, I always associated the pentagram as self with arms and legs outreached. Your head is the point. This is true. That's one of the symbols because you are the 5 elements: earth, air, fire,
Yeah,
and
well,
water.
also that particular
Spirit.
one with a person in the pentagram also implies that the person is a microcosm, being a perfect, as within, so without aspect of the microcosm and the macrocosm. So just as the pentagram represents the microcosm as human being, the hexagram represents the macrocosm.
But yeah,
So that's 5
spirit,
is a half of 10.
air and water, fire and earth for the legs. And in the original diagram, he put in there's like the moon and the sun and the other planets around it. So it is, like the whole solar system and everything there is, plus the elements, etc.
Yeah, yeah, and the planets are associated with specific aspects. Like the reproductive organs in the moon. There's the lunar aspect, which in Kabbalah is the foundation. and it has a purple, a violet color, basically. You know, all these correspondences and things.
So Carla says, of course, as air, water, fire, and earth with spirit up top when using as a focal point, we have the same schooling, at least very similar. Yeah, and it's one of the more recognized symbols that, you know, spirits recognize that symbol. It's been used for a long time for that, thousands and thousands of years, I suspect. So, but again, it's like Ian was saying, it's like your understanding of the symbol. The deeper you understand the symbol, the stronger it is when it comes to how you can use it and how spirits will respond to it and so forth. So yeah. Yeah, it was kind of interesting going through that video this morning. It's kind of interesting that the ones I was looking at this morning are some of the subjects that are coming up today. But yeah. I have hearts. You guys are so appreciated, Carla says. It's always good to be appreciated. I was having a conversation with someone this week and talking about spirits that I've seen and whether I saw them with my mind or with my eyes and all this other stuff, and just one thing after another, thinking about it and realizing how different I was born. It's kind of interesting. Donna says, kitchen clean. Thanks for the answer on Barden's second book. You guys really know Barden. Luna and I are getting Reiki tomorrow, my first time. Tune up for the hand fasting. Awesome. Good job. I was wondering when it was happening. I figured it was coming soon. I was thinking it was September, but I wasn't sure. I was actually thinking about you guys this morning, come to think of it. So thank you for showing up. Always good to get a Reiki tune-up. Clear your body out, your energy out, and all that stuff, and get ready for new things. Yay! Good healing modality. Teresa says, "Sounds exciting, Jono." Well, if it's his first time, it should be exciting, right? Well, I'm glad that there are other people like me out there, so it's always comforting to know I'm not alone. I just was born earlier on. Who are your best and worst Reiki clients? Should I do anything to prepare? Just be open and try not to have too many expectations about what it's going to feel like. Be as much in your body and your energy field as you can so that you can sense the changes and differences and things that might be going on inside your body. If you fall asleep, though, don't blame yourself because it's very relaxing. When I do distance Reiki, sometimes people are very aware of what I'm doing and sometimes they're not. And sometimes that's because they're exhausted or tired and they fall asleep because they get relaxed. So they're not, consciously aware of what's going on. I find that people, if the more conscious you can stay when you're getting energy kind of work, the more interesting the experience can be for both the practitioner and for the client. So that would be my recommendation. Gabrielle says, have you heard about the frog venom ceremonial purging people do, similar to ayahuasca? Not specifically, but it's not surprising because there's some pretty interesting frog venom out there that someone's doing it for that. Licking a frog. We've seen shows where they've licked frogs. I mean, fiction shows. But Gabrielle says, I had someone do Reiki on me and I looked physically different when I looked in the mirror. Interesting. I don't think I need to do anything like that though to change my view of reality because my struggle is to maintain the connection here. Donna says, hand fasting, 17th of August. I made an awesome hand fasting cord.
Cool.
Paperwork wedding in the registry office, 26th of September. I see. Okay, so I was right about the September part. That's the paperwork, but the hand fasting is happening on the 17th of August. Congratulations. It's going to be a good month. So, me and my brain. Yeah, my body doesn't work really well without one. Gotta make those connections. So things move and you want them to, nerves, etc. All that jazz. And words. Can't use words if you don't have a brain. That'd be interesting. I remember when I was younger, I read this article supposedly about a guy when they did an autopsy on him. He had no brain, but no one could tell when he was alive. And I don't know if that was like a joke, and it was before the internet, so it's one of those odd things.
Chris, you remember that child that had the totally compressed brain
Oh,
because
yeah.
of all the
Pressure, the water.
pressure in his brain, and they drained the pressure, and his brain unsquished like a sponge. And
Yep, that was
I don't remember
recent.
if he was okay.
He was.
He was?
They showed pictures like 2 or 3 years later. Totally normal child, like
He
nothing.
didn't have leftover brain damage or anything?
No
Wow,
brain
that's-
damage whatsoever.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they were trying to have the kid. They said the kid was going to die, and the
They
parents
said they
insisted.
needed him euthanized because he had no brain, because that
Yeah.
was what they thought, because it was so compacted due to the pressure in his head.
Yeah, and the parents insisted that they drained the fluid out of his head, and it did. It just took all the pressure off, and the brain just went popped up just like a sponge that had been squashed down, and then he was normal. Yeah, I think that's a fairly rare condition. I probably would never find another one of those.
Probably never, no, not anybody that survived.
Carla says, laugh my ass off. Oh my God. Jono says, I missed you guys. I have to go. I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you for being here, Jono. We missed you too.
Yep.
Carla says, that was supposed to be an exclamation point. Not a question mark? Yeah. Although it is kind of a questionable thing. It's just like, it was on a medical show. It was like, wow. Suzanne says, wow, how lucky for that kid. Yeah, no kidding. Very lucky. Ah. Gabrielle says, maybe I should get someone to pull cords out of me. I feel like some Christians are trying to convert me. Oh, I'm sorry. Luna says, have a great week, all. Hi, Luna. Bye,
Bye.
Luna. Well, I could always do a distance thing for you and see if I could help. Well, we can set something up. Because I sometimes can do that kind of stuff. If you think you need someone else to pull the cords. Certainly you can do it yourself, which is always best, because then you're in control and in charge, but they're always trying to convert everybody. I swear, if you were looking out, into thought forms and stuff like that, you would just see them going out there into the ether looking for anyone that they could just connect to, constantly looking for an entrance in, I swear. Of course, that's what conversion is, right? That's the whole point of it, to convert somebody. That means that you have to change them from wherever they're at to something you want. So that'd be a good description of it. Gabrielle says, yeah, maybe I'll try myself, and if I need help, I'll message you. Well, you got my message number, so I'm sure you know where I am. Yes. So, first harvest. That's what some people are calling it. I saw someone was annoyed that people call it Lunasaw because that's the Celtic name for it, but it's actually a festival that they still celebrate in Ireland. And, their whole thing. They have contests and of strength and skill and all this other stuff. And I looked into it one year. And Lu, they actually now think Lu was a comet, actually not a sun god. And originally, we've been thinking of him as a sun god for a long time, but I was watching some program about the mythology of Lu and what they've discovered recently, and they think it he came into existence in the mythology when there was a large comet, very visible comet in the sky. They're not sure exactly which comet, though. But yeah, the things that we use to create things. Carlos says, "Oh lordy, there's a lady who has a channel who tells you about the Opus Dei peeps and Peter Thiel, calls herself a gutter Catholic." Wow. Okay. I know Opus Dei. Those are the guys that do all the looking for evil and demonic possession and exorcisms. Peter Thiel, I'm not sure. Teresa says, I harvested snow peas for my first harvest. Yay! Snow peas are nice. Tasty, crunchy. Like them raw. Carla says, a social justice Catholic like Stephen Colbert. Okay. Since I don't watch much, I watch Stephen Colbert. I don't watch a lot of other stuff. I was very disappointed that they fired him.
Yeah.
Okay, so Carlos says that's what right-wing Catholics consider them, gutter Catholics. I see.
Yep.
So this
Too
is like
judgmental.
this is along with the lines of toxic empathy, which is the new key phrase they're trying to get out there, that being empathetic is a bad thing somehow and it's holding you back. And it's just what? Yeah, we have issues as a species. No doubt about it. I'm assuming RW is right wing. What made sense. Ah. Gabrielle says toxic empathy, laughing. Yes, that's the phrase they're using. I figure anybody who uses that phrase is not anyone I want to get to know. Yeah, you just got a lot of toxic empathy in you. You need to like fix that. Stop being nice to people. It's not okay. You just got to take care of yourself. Please be selfish in a bad way, and don't care about anyone else or whatever it is that they might be going through, because that just sort of throws you off your game. Yeah, right. I believe in balance. Take care of yourself and others. Carlos says there's weird stuff going on behind the scenes with that whole Colbert thing, especially with the South Park pickup. Yes, RW was right wing. I loved the South Park episode. Sophia says, how can we practice magic without much time to dedicate in small actions? Absolutely. I mean, you can do it. I mean, magic is all the time, really. So every breath you take is magic. Life is magic. Existence is magic. And it's just the whole point is to become aware of the fact it's your relationship with the universe, communicating with the universe around you. And it can be in small things, like the birds in your yard, or washing the dishes, or, I mean, it doesn't have to be, ritual or any of the other stuff. Really, it's a matter of awareness, attention to being alive and open to what comes to you from the universe, paying attention to the world. Yeah, I think we often get stuck in the idea that we're supposed to be doing formal ritual, or it's definitely, there's a lot of learning involved, but it can be fun learning. It doesn't have to be tortuous. You can play with crystals, learn how to do tarot, have fun with that, or go for a walk in the woods and and, lay your back against a tree and lay on the grass and watch the clouds, or lay on a big rock and try to feel what the rock feels like, try to communicate or commune with nature, take care of your pets, take your dog for a walk, or pet your cat, or, talk to the birds in your neighborhood, or feed them, or whatever. It's like, it's about being out of yourself, that you're not the only thing in the universe, you're not the most important thing in the universe, you are a part of the universe, and understanding that you are a part of it and that there's lots of other things going on, and paying attention to that. That's what I would consider, practicing magic.
Yeah. If one thing is important about practicing magic, I would say, is consistency. So you don't need to spend a lot of time at it, but if you want to learn something, just be consistent about exercises or something, or about attention, paying attention to where you're at, like Siofra was saying. But being consistent in that, you can get a lot farther than you can with like doing the occasional big ritual or something. Consistency, a lot of small consistency will get you a lot further.
Yeah, so Suzanne says, agreed, the peeps to stay away from. Gabrielle says, I want the aliens to abduct me sometimes. This planet is cuckoo. I'm not sure if another planet would be any better, Gabrielle. Just saying. Can I do an unbinding ritual? I feel like a Christian ex-friend may have tried to bind me. She's part of a fundamentalist prayer group. I just feel off. Yes.
Yeah, get rid of that stuff.
Absolutely.
If you feel off, get rid of it.
Carla says, yes, the toxic empathy thing is the Opus Dei and far-right Catholics. The pipe is...
Pope.
The Pope. The Pope is in a weird place because if he excommunicates them, they'll take their money and join the other crazies. All right. I like pipe. It's kind of interesting.
Well, you could smoke the Pope. You could have a Pope pipe. There was I don't know if anybody remembers this, but there was a craze for a while back. I think it was like in the late 70s, or the Pope on a rope. And then I think the Catholics got irritated about it. But they were selling soap, which was on a rope and it was shaped like a Pope. So you could get the Pope on a rope to take a shower with.
Is that Irish Spring?
I don't remember, but I believe the Catholics got irritated with that one.
Yeah, the Pope on a rope.
I just thought the whole thing was funny myself.
Gabrielle says, laugh out loud, you're right. And Gabrielle says, the alien planets may be more cooked than ours. Maybe that's why they're here, because theirs is all messed up, and they're looking for somewhere new. I don't know. Carla says, ha ha. And Beth is laughing and crying too. It's like, yes. Senses of humor. It's important to keep a sense of humor about it all and not be quite so serious.
Yeah.
Oh, the end of the world as we know it. They keep hoping. But I feel fine. Oh, God, yes. God and Goddess. It's just life is just interesting. Being happy, helping other people, being kind, taking care of yourself, having healthy boundaries, being a good person, being happy with yourself and who you are. These things are priceless. And there's so many different ways that others try to pull us off of that and uncenter us, unground us, and so forth. Like, you can't possibly comprehend or understand the nature of reality because you're just a woman, for example, which we didn't have the soul for a long time, or just a human being and you're not a member of their particular group, so you're lacking in some intellectual capacity or whatever. That they have a secret, they know the knowledge, and they're going to keep it from you unless you do what they want. I mean, all that stuff is just things to control people and manipulate them and to undermine them, make them feel their lack of confidence, their inability to just make decisions for themselves and so forth. And it's in making our own decisions and even making our own mistakes that we become responsible beings in the universe and a part of the universe, instead of just sort of being tossed around like flotsam in whichever way the wind happens to be blowing at the time. So Yeah, that's my soapbox for the day. Carla says, I'm laughing so hard I scared my cat.
Yeah, she
Gabrielle
first,
says, I feel upset that a lot of people really don't want us to be empowered. No, they don't want us to be empowered because they're working with a power over, power under model. And their idea is that if they're not in power, then they have to be under someone else who's in power, and they don't want to be there. So they want everyone they know to be under them. That's kind of how they, you know.
yeah, when we had a business, we had one of our workers who was that way, and he couldn't take the power with. We had that idea was power with. You know, we'd hire employees that knew what they were doing, and then trust them to do their work and help them out to do it and stuff.
Oh, he
But he
hated
couldn't
us.
handle the power with. It either he had to either be under, in which he wouldn't do anything. If he was doing the power under, he wouldn't do anything if he wasn't told specifically to do it. It was like it wasn't
Spelled
my
out.
job. His power over, he wants to take control over everything. So he couldn't figure out any way to work with us. It was either he had to have control over anything, or he'd throw away all control, and then he was so stupid he wouldn't be a good worker.
He wouldn't fill up the gas tank when the gas was almost empty, and he'd try to go to a service call and run out of gas
You know, just
on the
yeah,
way. It's just
yeah.
ridiculous. But
Yeah,
that's
it
the
was
thing.
funny. He couldn't be happy though. He couldn't be happy with a power with structure. He had to be either in charge or under the thumb of somebody. He couldn't live any other way, which was very strange to us.
It took a long time for us to figure out why that wasn't working. We
Yep.
kept trying. We thought anyone would like that, and apparently he was so used to the power structure the way it was. He was a
Well,
Jehovah
and he
Witness,
was, yeah,
and that might have had something to do with it because he was very much in charge of everything around him because he was the man.
yeah.
And yeah, so it was interesting experience to find out that this is not something some people will be able to adapt to. They don't know what to do. The idea that you can just have power with someone and not have to have a position of over them or under them is like an alien civilization or something. I don't know. They just can't grasp it. Anyway, yeah, it's interesting. So Carla says, feel happy, Gabrielle. They're aware of the power. Gabrielle says, I think I'm feeling off because I've had people try to wear down my will or remove my autonomy. It's disturbing. Yep. So I set very strict boundaries and still have to work at keeping boundaries and staying alert to underminers. Well, that's all of us. We all have to do that. And every time someone tries to cross a boundary, I'm like, okay, here's another opportunity for me to define what is and what isn't okay with me, you know. And that's just life. That will never completely go away, not for the foreseeable future at any rate, the way things are arranged. And sometimes people cross your boundaries not because they know they're crossing your boundaries, but because they're used to just reacting or being a certain way, and they don't think about it. You know, it's just sort of, and then you have to say no, no, don't do that. That's not okay with me. Yeah, so it's an interesting experience being alive and trying to figure that stuff out. But yeah, you know, it's just always the way it is. Like it happens. You can sometimes get lucky and be with someone long enough that that doesn't happen very often, or hardly ever, or never, mostly. If you really care about somebody, you care about how they feel. If somebody only cares about how they feel, then they're definitely not into letting you have a boundary. That's the way that works. My nose is itchy suddenly. Woo! Woo! I'm gonna sneeze. I know, like with my mother couldn't allow me to just have a feeling about somebody and let it lay and just accept the fact that I had that feeling. I felt uncomfortable with someone and I would tell her, she would always jump to their defense, you know, because she was worried that I was becoming too, I don't know, assertive or judgmental or critical. I don't sure what exactly she thought, but she would defend the other person, give them a break. Maybe they had a rough day. You don't know what's going on in their lives and so forth. and never support me how I felt about whatever it was that was going on. And it was very frustrating for me as her daughter, for sure, to try and learn, how to deal with that. And yeah, the family dynamics can be tricky to maneuver because we have a lot of assumptions about family and who they are and how they're supposed to act and what they're supposed to know and assumptions that we make about relationships and so forth. They says that's so annoying about your mom's reaction. Yes, it was very annoying. I actually told her to stop doing that to me when we were on vacation once. It was one of those bizarre things with my sister's son's wedding. We were in California, and I had traveler's checks, and I signed over a traveler's check for breakfast, and I got yelled at by the cashier because I didn't sign it while she was looking, and so I had to sign it again. And I'm like, okay. So the next time we were there, I very carefully waited, and she was standing in front of me for me to sign it, and I signed it, and she turned around and left. And then someone else came over, and then they yelled at me for signing it because they hadn't seen me sign it. And I was really, at that point, I was so annoyed. Like, this had been going on for several days. And I started yelling. I was like just very peeved. And I'm leaving the restaurant and going like, I'm never going to eat there again because these people are stupid. It's like, da 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 da. My mother starts going off. Oh, maybe she's having a rough day. I turned around and I said, stop doing that to me. And she kind of went like, whoa, I'm yelled at. So yeah, I yelled at my mom. Yeah, it's funny. And she got annoyed when we were telling her where to drive. She felt that was a statement about her inability to know where she was going. And so, because Ian and I, when we drive, it's like one of us is the navigator, one of us is the driver, and the other one says, okay, you're going to be turning left in a couple of blocks, so you want to get in the left-hand lane. And, so I'm doing the same thing with my mom, and she's yelling at me. Yeah, I know perfectly well how to drive. I'm like, okay, fine. So I stopped talking. So then she started driving us to my son's house in the morning, and she had no clue where she was going. And she just kept on going. I just sat there and kept my mouth shut. And after we were, I don't know, miles away from where we were supposed to be, she says, where are we? I said, I have no idea. Because I don't know where you're going. So yeah, I was a bit of a bitch. I was like, Gabrielle says, yeah, invalidating people are the worst, but they expect validation for their feelings. Oh, don't they? Carla says, I'm Italian, mom's Irish, yelling is our love language. Sophia says, what is your thoughts about this? What? My thoughts about what this? I'm very literal. You need to tell me what we're talking about. I don't know. I think it's okay to stand up for yourself. That's just too bad for my mom. Like, I'm human too. What can I say? Not always spiritual and enlightened every minute of every day. I have moods. Moods. I'm a cow. I'm human too, Teresa says. Yep, we all are. We make mistakes and we're all human. Thinking that we're not, that we're in trouble. I'm the enlightened one. Do what I say. I'm the only one who knows the truth. Woohoo! So,
yes, well, seen a few of those too.
Oh yeah. Gabrielle says, me too. I'll give someone the stink eye so fast. Teresa says, I have feelings too. Yes, we all have feelings. And sometimes they're not compatible feelings. We do a lot of projection. Most of the time we're projecting. We do a lot of that. But that's it, sometimes knowing what's someone else's responsibility to deal with and what's yours. That's the trick. It's like I try to deal with my stuff, and try to let other people deal with their stuff. It's like they're not in charge of how they feel about how you feel, or something like that. I think. So still not sure if I've answered any question that Sophia had there. Gabrielle says, yep. Shay says, thank you for another lively live stream. I'm headed off. Have a good week, everyone. Blessed
Bye,
be.
Shay.
Bye, Shay. Got a couple of minutes, according to my clock.
Anybody got any last things they need to say?
Last questions before we're gone until next week. I like the fact that we can talk about stuff. Carla says, bye, Shay.
Anything they want to say right
I
now?
guess not. I guess we can just go now then. There are no more questions. We've answered all the questions that exist.
End of the internet.
That's right. What's everyone doing the rest of the day, evening?
Well, I'm going to hopefully get my speaker box
Oh,
finished.
Sophia says, I keep sending the question, but you don't see it.
Oh,
Okay, well, try phrasing it a different way. Maybe it's being blocked.
I'm not seeing anything. If it was being blocked, I should see something as moderator, and I'm not seeing anything at all.
Sometimes the internet does weird stuff. Carla says, hoping to get out to the Hollows for a ride. Gabrielle says, like my brother was telling me, I was dumb for buying hula boo-boos because it's consumerism, as he messages from his iPhone.
Hey, if you like something, who cares if it's consumerism?
It's up to you how you want to spend your
That's
money.
right.
So there. And Beth says, great live, guys. I've really enjoyed sitting back and listening. Blessed be.
Yeah, sorry, Sophia. The only thing I can think of is to try it again. Maybe it'll come through.
Yeah, because it's not coming through. I'm not trying not to read it. It isn't like, Gabrielle says, I bought another Labubu and blocked him because he was yelling at me for a few hours over dumb things. I went no contact. Good for you. I think that's important.
Yeah, you don't need to put yourself out there to be abused verbally or, by any means.
There have been a few
Yeah,
times where YouTube has just sort of blocked something because they've decided it was not okay for some reason that we've not been able to figure out. Chewing me out over a stuffed toy was wild. Like, holy crap. Carla says, happy Sunday all. Thank you, Siofra and Ian. Have a good week. So maybe, Sophia, you can send me the question on my email at siofrasmagicalcove@gmail.com, and then I can answer it next week. Or send you an email back, since we...
Yeah, we have had that happen before and never quite figured out what happened. We've had other people's messages occasionally just disappear and not show up. No reason I'm aware of.
Yeah. So I guess that's the only thing, because we're still not seeing any question from her. So try that and get around the internet that way. And we'll see if we can figure out if there's a reason, but there may not be a reason. It could be just some weird random internet thing in bobber. Sometimes these things happen.
Yeah, see, there all I got was
What do you think about that? Yep, still haven't seen it. So I guess that's what we're at. You're going to have to send it to me in an email because we're not getting it.
Whatever's happening, yeah.
All right, guys. Been a wonderful time. We've enjoyed ourselves as usual. And we shall see you guys next week. And everybody have a good week yourselves and stay safe wherever you happen to be. And
Thank you all for being here and giving us something to talk about.
that's right. Being our entertainment for the week. Suzanne says, bye, have a good week. And Ian says, blessed be, and thanks, everyone. Sophia says, oh, thank you. Teresa says, educational.